Hello and welcome to Raising Anchor, your podcast and source for all things Rhode Island FC. I'm your host, Matt Entrikin, coming to you on Thursday, September 25th. Rhode Island FC win their second game in a row for just the second time this season, thanks in part to a penalty kick that lifts RIFC over Miami 1-0. Is this just the momentum that RIFC needs, or is there work still to do as they take on El Paso Locomotive down in Texas this weekend? We're going to get through all of that and so much more. Jason, welcome back. My dear co-host, Mr. Carey, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Had a fun weekend here. We'll get into part of it in a second.
Should we check that our audio is good? Should we just make sure, can fans hear us loud and clear? Because last week, somehow, Jason once again powered up the studio. We meant to do a special episode we pre-recorded because we were going to be down somewhere we'll talk about. And somehow it was defaulted to the laptop. We did this incredible show, and then when I went back to listen to it for quality control, as I'm on an airplane, nothing I can do about it. We are stuck with it. So sometimes you get subpar audio quality, and that's just what you deal with when you're dealing with a USL Championship side podcast.
I mean, fellow Jason said it's great. Matthew Jean and Matt Leonard chiming in too.
Matthew Jean, audio is a lot better. Got to underscore that a lot. But sorry, Jason, I cut you off. How has your week been? Feels like we haven't done one of these in a long time. I feel like we did like 5 or 6 between all the different podcast networks just a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And now it's been literally 7 days since we last did one. It feels our consistency is way off here.
It does feel like a very long time, even though, like you said, it's literally been 7 days. I think just so much has happened in that last 7 days. I was just going to ask though, like, do you think that RIFC could get a lollipop sponsor?
So first off, I don't think they ever could, because I don't know if there's a local lollipop. I think the best we could do is Yacht Club Soda, but do let the listeners know, because I don't know if they picked that up in the audio. I don't know if they had caught what's been going on down in Miami, because that was probably the funniest thing as we went back and rewatched that game.
Yeah, I forgot the brand. It's a Caribbean
it's like
brand.
Yum Yum Pop or something like that.
Something like that.
Bon Bon Pop.
Yeah, and they've got it on their like warm up kits, and I think one of their alternate jerseys. And their slogan is "Suck at something." I just lost it for a minute. I was like, "This is amazing." I wish more teams just kind of had fun with just some nonsense sponsorships. Why not?
It's like when art becomes reality, it's like Tron, you bring it into the world and it has dire consequences. And Miami living up to their sponsor's name, because they are definitely sucking at something. So we're going to get into that, but let's get right into this. There's no news this week. Again, like there's this consistency problem where we haven't seen Rhode Island at home in a while. We still won't see them for a little bit longer. And then come to find out there's like really nothing to talk about after the Diop signing and the re-signings of other players. Nothing to really kind of break through that segment here. So all I have left to do is just like jump right back. It's so weird. Like, let's just jump straight into the recap that happened so long ago, because that game was Friday last week, where like it's such a weird feeling. It's like I didn't put my pants on the right way today.
Hashtag not a vacation recap podcast, but the reality is we were actually at a metal festival and had to watch the game later, because I think it was on while we were watching Breaking Benjamin play the Halo song.
Absolutely. I had my phone out with the Google Play alert to let me know, and I was getting a little nervous as the minutes clocked through. We got to the halftime. It's like, okay, 0-0. I'm just going to scroll down straight to that stat, because why not, right? We haven't scored in the first half of a match this season since do you want to take a guess when the last time we scored in the first half of a match?
I don't know, June. Like North Carolina.
It was North Carolina. I mean, if you count the Jägermeister Cup, it's obviously a little bit different. But yes, that is correct. And then in addition to that, do you know how many times we have failed to score in a first half this season?
Most of them.
18 out of 25 matches, my friend. Only the Las Vegas Lights have failed to do it on a little bit more at 19. So anyways, so we were down in Louisville. Honestly, it was a great time. I've been there once before to watch Rhode Island hand Louisville the business in the postseason last year. But we were following along. We were enjoying our bands, and then we saw the win. We saw how we got the win, and all I could think of at the time, I try to be clever with those gifts and whatnot. I was like, a win's a win. Like whatever I'm going to see when I go back and rewatch this game, we'll get to that later. But a win's a win, and it felt like that kind of perfectly summarized as the people that were watching it live. That it's like, hey, nothing too glamorous, nothing too flashy. You can see something's there, but still not quite manifesting. Thoughts overall on kind of from the trip? We're down in Louisville. We tried to go to the Louisville game, by the way. Our friends, not soccer sickos.
Yeah, they watched the other football, so they had no intention of us getting there. So.
Sometimes they listen to our podcast. They've admitted by accident because they support it, and then it just comes in the autoplay, and then they immediately turn it off, which I respect. They're our friends. They're not our listeners. But this group of people you need to know, and I hope they do listen to this part someday, they, rather than watch a soccer game, they wanted to go to the airport 5 hours early and sit in the terminal to watch the NFL on Sunday. So their opinions don't even matter at that point. We missed out on, and it was a good game. I think Vegas, it was like a 4.
It was 3-1. Louisville had like 4,000 shots.
Yeah, come on. Who doesn't want to watch goals actually get scored? Not Rhode Island FC fans, but people want to see that, allegedly.
Yeah, another real quick story, though. Fun thing happened here on the way to Louisville. We went down to good old TF Green, #1 airport.
You can't sing that, Hartford.
Yeah. And lo and behold, we ran into the team. I think at this point they think that we are stalking them, and it's funny because we aren't ever looking for it. We go out and we ran. Like, oh hey, look who's here. And so we ran into them, asked them what's going on, and they actually thought we were headed down to the match, but their flight got delayed, and they were kind of wandering around the airport board because they didn't know what to do.
Yeah, I tapped JJ on the shoulder, and he was like, "What are you doing?" Like I got the feeling that they thought we may have been embedded to go down and follow them. Some fans did. I know the Pools basically travel wherever they go. We could hear them on the broadcast a little later in the game. But then we ran into, like you said, Noah and Clay just walking, just pacing because they were 2 hours delayed. They told us a couple of different horror stories about some of the delays this year. And, you would think, and Noah said it best, he's like, you'd think with a sponsor like Breeze, we could fix that problem. And I said, are you flying on Breeze? And he's like, well, no, not this flight. But like, you'd think with that, we could get some flight situations handled a little bit better. So I think the players have been honestly sidelined maybe 4 or 5 times this season, which in the grand scheme of things, the amount of flights they have to do doesn't sound like a lot, but like when you want to get somewhere, get set in,
you're ready to go. Yeah, you've got timelines, and probably some of them have like pre-game rituals, even like the night before, things like that. Yeah,
right. And then you broke capital J journalism news so much so that people were surprised it was coming from you and not me. I was still going through the security checkpoint, and you just, as I caught up with you, you're like, yeah, I saw Hamady Diop just walk past me, and I was like, well, he's traveling with the team, like he's absolutely going to be there. You don't start, you don't bring a guy who just brought into the team and not have any intention of at least potentially playing him. Obviously, we found out later the amount of injuries, which we'll go over a little later tonight, but it was just good to see Diop. We broke that in the private Discord 36 members only channel. Another reason why you should be a member. You get some of the stuff that we don't want out there to prepare Miami for any kind of, who knew? I don't know if he was going to start at the time. You just don't know those things.
Yeah.
But more interesting than that too, when we found out later, the game wasn't even played at Mr. Worldwide Stadium. Jason, were you okay with that? I know how much you wanted to go down and make that the away trip of the season. We're going to make that the away trip next season for sure. We're going to have more fans of our team in attendance. That's my only goal, is getting as many of the listeners, as many of the traveling fans. We concentrate on the Miami game next year.
Fill it with just our fans.
Could you imagine like just the takeover that would be? It'd be incredible. But then you found out they didn't even play at Mr. Worldwide Stadium. Were you heartbroken?
I mean, I was a little disappointed, but I wasn't there. So I'm glad in the sense that the plans fell through and we didn't actually go there, because I would have been disappointed not to be able to watch a soccer match at Mr. Worldwide Stadium. At least, they just announced the plans recently too. I think we had actually talked about it last episode, and then during the time we were recording,
did the pre-recording instead of doing it live.
Yeah, during the recording of the episode, they dropped the design docs of it, and it looks really nice.
I really hope they can figure out how to scale 300 fans to 10,000 overnight, because we are going through a battle just to go from 4,000 to 10,000, and it is a fight. It is a fight every single match.
But yeah, I mean, it is interesting. Do you think, in regards to, I know this game got rescheduled. I think at one point it was a Wednesday game, right?
Yeah.
College football or something get in the way?
If you're relegated to the college soccer field, which didn't look like, it's grass at least. It didn't look like it had the best conditions going for it. It had to be strictly because of college gridiron football, and it was just getting in the way of it, especially with all the moving targets. So I don't know what that does for the home team. I don't know how Miami adjusted that. Maybe that's the field they practice on every day. Maybe they were still comfortable with it, but who knows what kind of, mentality you're going into. You're going to play in this, empty bowl of a stadium, and then suddenly you're just playing on a, a smaller area, like no real pressure. I don't know what that does to the mentality of a professional athlete on the day.
Yeah, I don't know. It almost had the feel of like watching an Open Cup game or something, where you're playing one of those like lower division teams who's like, yeah, we play our games on this, local college soccer pitch because that's all we can do.
So they're going down. So Miami's not going to stay in the championship. They're going to get relegated directly to USL 2. Perfect.
Somehow with a 15,000 capacity stadium.
I mean, Vermont, if they keep it up there, that's within their sights. They could still stay that and still fill that stadium. But let's get back to this game. Let's get back to the result itself. Like we said, RIFC beat Miami FC, thanks in part to a J.J. Williams foul in the box, courtesy of Cesar Garcia, that saw Jorge Quizera convert the penalty in the 68th minute and give the go-ahead goal that they were able to hold on to for that lead and the ultimate 3 points. The win here, Jason, and this is where we got to talk a lot. The win moves Rhode Island FC 4 points clear of 9th place until Indy 11 go and do their magic, and then they go and win their game. Now still just trailing 1 point behind. It's difficult. I mean, on one hand, you look at how this game works. It breaks a 4-game losing streak from the sense of what was the road performance. We hadn't been doing well on the road. I was really surprised.
Enough, we started good on the road, but couldn't do it at home. And now it's like it flip-flopped.
And that was the weirdest thing, is like sometimes the broadcasters will pull pearls of wisdom that I'll like write down, like, okay, let's research that. Let's talk some more about it. And he said we had a 500 performance record at Centerville Bank Stadium. And it still doesn't feel right to say that out loud. And then I had to think, well, if that's 500 and we're not really as far up the table as we'd like to be, what has our road performance been? Didn't realize we had lost 4 in a row until that game. That was a bit of a big surprise for me. And like I said, it's the second time in the entire season that we've had back-to-back wins. So the needle's starting to change, Jason. I'm starting to. I never lost the hope. I may have lost the faith at times, but again, you can see this. You know where this team is. There's just that one missing piece that Kano can't solve yet, and we continue to see more of it here. Didn't really see what we wanted out of the offense to a certain degree. Saw a lot of potential, but not the finished product that I think we're all hoping for at this point in the end of the season. But I also love these stats. These are my favorite ones. Every time we do get a win, I go back and I pull it. Right now, we have a record of 7 wins and 1 draw when we score the opening goal this season in USL Championship. So Rhode Island FC, they have to score first. If they score first, most of the time, it all works out in their favor because we have not lost a match now in 23 games when we score first. And that goes all the way back to Carlos Biggs in May of last year. Not this year, May of 2024.
Imagine how heartbroken we're going to be when that stat dies.
I mean, if that stat dies because like we're in a USL Cup final in 2027, I'm fine. See how you thought I'm not going to lose a USL Cup final again in 20. I can't handle that kind of heartbreak if we made it that far. Side trail for a second here. Have you been on the Louisville subreddit recently?
Not in a while.
You don't go just randomly to the enemy's camps?
I mean, occasionally I kind of go and lurk.
So when we thought we could bring our friends along and have them enjoy the beautiful game, I started doing some research on the team, and then I just wanted to see how I've heard and I've engaged with a couple of Louisville fans. Almost 96% of the community is great. A couple outliers that talk a lot of garbage online. They say it comes from the fact that we have toxic trolls on our side, which, yeah, sure we do, but wanted to kind of break those barriers down because I wanted to take them to the supporter group party, the tailgate, and do some bourbon, have some fun, and just enjoy like the camaraderie of the community, try to open their eyes to that part of the soccer experiment, right? When I went into the Reddit to see like where like I could like maybe make a friend and like position myself, found out that they were already talking postseason because they've clinched. Danny Cruz won 100 games, and so they were already like, okay, no matter what, we have a home playoff game. Right now, like, Charleston probably can't catch us. Who do we want as our 8th place team? Right now, it's Rhode Island. And then like 15 people like Rhode Island. We want Rhode Island. We want Rhode Island so bad. Revenge postseason game, Rhode Island or die. And I don't know why they want us. If you think about it, man, we should be the last team they want. We have nothing to live for at that point except to defeat them, to go through them. We just demonstrated recently. Now, granted, they didn't have Goodwin with them at the time. We are one of the toughest teams to face. Outside of like breaking that neurological like disorder barrier where like you can get that off your shoulders, we don't have to live in your head rent free anymore. I would figure you would want a little bit more steam going to the playoffs than to deal with us in the first round.
It's funny because I was watching the newest episode of US All Access, and Devin Kerr and Mike Watts were talking about the same thing about potential matchups for the postseason. And Devin Kerr was like, "Sure, you beat him this year, but due to the history and the way they're like solid defensively, do you really want to face them again? I don't think so. Like, you don't want to take a chance on that."
Yeah, Rhode Island FC, you do not want them backed into a corner. If you can hold out, sure, take them into penalties, and maybe you'll, most likely you'll see something happen. But you don't want Rhode Island FC backed into a corner, angry, and with the confidence that they've done it to you in the past. Remember, most of these teams on both sides, they're mostly the same squads. So it's not like they retooled and rebuilt. They added a couple players. We added a few players. So like, I would not want that when it all comes down to the final wire. Like there's one thing in this league I think that's dangerous, and that's Rhode Island FC angry and desperate. I don't think you would want to see them in the first round of the playoffs. But anyways, back to Miami. Overall thoughts on the game itself. We rewatched the game a couple days later. Give me like the synopsis. Give me the threads to pull here.
I remember we were watching it, and I think midway through it, and I asked you, was like, "Hey, if we didn't know we were going to win this game, do you think we would be frustrated watching this game right now?" Because kind of felt like that. I've always said that I believe that this team does better without possession, but also that comes from a place when we had better transition and we could score. At this point, with our lack of scoring ability, I don't know if that's the case. I'm not going to argue the other side and say, let's go back to possession, because I don't think that did us any favors either. But it just feels like, that final piece is still off. We would see really nice, like, one pass and go type movement from the players. And then they would get to the final third and it just either fizzled out, or the shot, wasn't the right thing. They didn't they shot instead of passing. It just still feels like Kano can't figure out what that final unlock is to kind of get that edge in regards to the attack.
It's interesting. He talks a lot about focusing on chance creation and specifically entries into the final third. And I went through the numbers, and we had a solid index of final third entries, several players knocking on double digits potentially going into that game. I really think that Kano needs to move away from the final third column and then really like talk about box entries, right? Like, what is it? How often, how dangerous are we stacking bodies into the box itself? Because that final third, if we're that good, then narrow your goalpost literally a little bit more, right? Like, fine tune it to where don't just settle with, because the final third entry could be just running it down the channel and then not doing even a cross with it. Like, you're technically into the final third. I feel like this team,
like when Clay sent in those really nice crosses and there was only JJ there to attack it.
Great combination with Joe. I have to admit that was a really exciting thing to see. But I think like marksmen talk about this, like aim small, miss small, right? Like, I think sometimes they get in and then they just kind of assume something's going to happen within the chaos of the moment. I really feel like if they could just bring it in a little bit more, like just tuck it in a little bit more, however you have to do that, we have to move beyond final third entry, because the chance creation just isn't there. But yet they kind of hang their jacket on, hey, like, yeah, we're getting into the final third, so the opportunity's there. I think they got to shrink that window down. But let's talk about how Kano constructed the roster on the day and what kind of led to his success. Not a lot changed here, but especially not considering between this match and the last match. I think the last match still has the record of the most changes in a single game. Walk us through what Kano set up and constructed for this match.
Yeah, it's like you said, just a few changes here. 2 player changes with 2 additional positional changes. We kind of prefaced this a little earlier, though. Some injuries we'll talk about later in the show. But in net, as always, El Capitan, Koke Vegas. We've got a back 3 there of Frank Nodarse, Karifa Yao, and Ame Mabika. We've got a midfield 4 of Amos Shapiro Thompson, Zach Harivo, Hugo Bacharach, Jojea Quizera. I think we put that. Where's Clay Holstead? Joe Brito, JJ Williams, and Noah Fuson.
Oh, I get it. You're reading the notes and I'm looking at the graphic. Yeah. So, I mean, listen, Joe Brito, he makes his 2nd straight regular season start, his 7th of 2025 so far. I mean, back-to-back games. Is Joe Brito the answer here? Like, I don't feel like I know we just mentioned the overlap here a second ago. Not sure if he did as much as other players that I would argue should be at least getting the nod in this currently once again injured team. I feel like one week we're super healthy, the next we're not. Did Brito make enough in your eyes to warrant getting a third start in a row?
There were a few moments that were like almost there, but I felt like he was a bit more impactful in the previous game. That being said, it's hard to like really judge him too much here. You know, I we also look at someone who's usually a regular, like fantastic starter for us, and Marky Barr. And you know, I messed up the notes. I put the wrong people. Marky Barr and Clay Hillstead were there, not Amos Shapiro Thompson and Zach Caravo. They got Amos Shapiro Thompson. We'll talk about later. Zach Caravo got subbed in late. But he was kind of, I don't want to say invisible, but didn't particularly have.
He vanished. He completely vanished in this game.
And it felt like Joe similarly just kind of wasn't there. I mean, also we look at the possession stats, and Miami dominated the ball. So I don't know if, you know, everyone has an off day. Maybe we just didn't get enough of the ball for them to make an impact on this game. Like we said at the end of a win is a win. We like, I don't want to like beat up on this team too much. We're kind of trending in the right direction, at least in terms of results.
I mean, you know, we talk about Mark Ibarra. One of the big noticed differences in this match is when we started to see who was taking the set pieces and the corner kicks, Ibarra wasn't a part of the equation. And I thought that was really surprising because he's been kind of the set piece specialist for a lot of the targeted kicks into the box. I'm wondering, as Kano deftly knows, that we do not have any goals in the championship from a set piece or a corner. I'm wondering if he's starting to look for someone else with better shot placement. I don't know why. I don't think Mark.
The weird thing though too is, remember, Mark was out for a long part of this season too, so I don't know if that he's necessarily the problem. But maybe he's getting desperate in a sense of, like you said, why can't we get at least one goal from a set piece? So like maybe change it up. Let's try something different.
Right. And then of course Hamady Diop gets his debut with Rhode Island FC, entering the game in the 75th minute. Overall thoughts on his debut? I don't think I saw anything like
15 minutes is hard to get a real good grasp of a player. He didn't look out of place at all. You know, sometimes you throw someone in the mixer there and they're like, whoa, this guy's not ready. He's off a step or something here. But you know, he looks solid enough that I'm willing to kind of get some more looks and see what he can bring to this team.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Like you said, officiating with how this game happened, it felt like Rhode Island FC, you know, started this game with some sort of high press. I feel like in the first 10 minutes, they were trying to stay in Miami's kind of face. And then as the game started to shake out, the reffing started to influence the game, I think, more than Rhode Island FC wanted. And they started just kind of doing what I've seen teams like the Columbus Crew do in the MLS, where they're like, hey, you can have the ball. It's almost like what teams have done to us. Like if you're not in the middle third, especially, let alone the final third, if you're in your own third, have as much of the ball as you want. Even if you try to, you know, go long with it, have as much of it as you'd like. We didn't really engage.
Sacramento did that to us earlier, except for they kind of re-engaged the press at times. Like yeah, and it just kind of felt we, for some reason, after the first 10, 15 minutes, we're just like, nah, we're just going to let you have the ball until you get to us. Then we'll engage.
And I know we try not to like always bring up the reffing, because even the players will say at times that the reffing is not good. But they also will then immediately say, I can only control what I can control, and I can never influence, most of the time, a referee's decision. But I want to ask, like, when we talk about RIFC's ability to get into games, I think it's important to know, you know, I mentioned that earlier stat, 18 now of 25 matches, we haven't scored in the first half. Technically, if Bacharach's goal in the 37th went in, that would have shattered, at least, well, it wouldn't have shattered, but it would have reduced that record down. I kind of think that this ref just decided maybe he dated someone in New England at one point, and it didn't work out, so he was going to take it out on the team. Wasn't in love with the decision making from this ref. Want to walk specifically through that play itself. We watched it back in slow motion. Obviously, you have the benefit then when you can deconstruct a play, you can watch it. But it looked like it was Frank Nodarse that got called for offsides, which clawed back that goal. Do you agree with the ref's decisions there, or is there something else here that you like? Did we not do something right in that space to challenge what that call was?
I mean, unfortunately, we don't really have a challenge system in that regards. But yeah, watching that back, and like you said, we have the benefit of doubt being able to kind of go back and rewind it. It was really close to the point where it's hard to tell. The angle wasn't great from the TV, but kind of didn't seem like Frank Nodarse was off. I mean,
and we're assuming it was Frank. We don't even know who the whistle was blown on. The broadcasters were even confused. We just are assuming it was an offsides call for Frank Nodarse.
Yeah, even the commentators were like, what was called there? Was it offside? Was it a foul? Like, we couldn't, the way the camera was zoomed in too much, we couldn't see the side of the pitch to see if one of the line ref raised their flag. So I just was really confused by that call there. I mean, throwing some of the fouls were kind of questionable. There was one there.
Blanco
like threw himself into someone and then like fell over and was.
And he got rewarded with when we were in transition on their goal. Yeah, no, but I really want to say, like, with that particular offsides goal, that the AR is on the worst. He's not on the closest side to see and have a line of. I mean, obviously it's a line of sight. It's the AR's job, but he wasn't on the far side where he would have seen it. He's on the near side, and Frank Nodarse is the farthest back player in the entirety of that lineup. And he was trying to do secondary runs. He was out, then he was coming back in. I think he timed that well. But here's the other problem. In the USL, and I think without the ability for VAR, if it's that close, like, you have to be able to like put like your mortgage on the line to get, like, I know I got that right. But otherwise, let the goal happen. Let the shot happen. And remember, when they blew the whistle, it was after the initial deflection from Campisi. He'd already kind of squared up in front of it. It was after the ball fell back down, deflected out to Bacharach, who was a little bit further at the top of the box, and then he took the shot in. Whistle got blown in that period of time. It didn't get blown right away. So it's like, let those kinds of goals happen.
Yeah,
like, this is what people want to watch. They want to watch a fun and entertaining game. If we're stifling it on that close of a margin, like, this is that VAR joke where, like, the toe's out and the line catches it, and like, oh, his big toe was across the offsides line, so we have to claw that goal back. That's not how I want to watch soccer.
Yeah, I think at this level of soccer, you would want to give the benefit to the attacker. I mean, you could argue maybe you do it at all levels, but at the higher levels, you'd argue, all right, you guys are the best of the best. You're skilled enough. Just like play within the laws of the game. But Division II soccer, like, come on, unless it's obvious and blatant, just let it go.
And I don't think if that,
I don't think it was.
If that had not been called in VAR, I don't think there's enough to reverse that call. That's how close it was. So, like, the idea that we're erring in the defense of a non-goal, it's like how baseball continues to reinvent the rules and, like, reduce times, change the dimensions, change the bats. Like they're doing everything to make the game more fun.
It double or triple A, you can now challenge pitches.
That's actually coming now to the majors. They were testing that in the minor league to now bring into the major league in 2026. So yeah, teams will be able to challenge a pitch accuracy with robots moving forward. So, welcome to the future, Jason.
Yeah.
Welcome to the future. Want to get into Quezera taking the penalty? Kind of a big moment here. Or am I?
No, I was kind of surprised because at the time I just looked and saw Joe J took the penalty. Like, okay, cool. But I didn't go back to see that. Oh, JJ was still on the pitch.
We didn't know we didn't check the lineup. So, like, Maxi's not there, JJ's not there, Quezera's the number 3. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then we go back and watch the game. Like, oh well, JJ actually won the foul, and then Joe J steps up to take it, and I know he had got flat-footed like twice, and I was wondering if maybe he was just a bit kind of disheveled there for a moment and was just like, "Hey, you take it," or like I don't know what happened there. I mean, it was a good penalty.
What does that say in the locker room? I mean, we know with the last penalty JJ shot, he scored a field goal. He scored all 3 points. What does that say to a player's confidence? He's supposed to be the guy. A penalty could, in essence, spark, right? When I interviewed Kano on the offseason last year, he said when JJ gets goals at Durham, it's like wings. It lifts him. Even if it's just a penalty, that could have put him into a new gear. You've now taken that away from him after he earned it. This isn't even like basketball where like you get fouled, so you got to take the shot. This is like he earned his own penalty, doesn't get to take it. If you're JJ Williams, and I don't want to hear, oh, they're professionals, they'll sort it out. Your confidence just has to be like, why am I not allowed to take this shot?
Yeah, I don't know why he didn't advocate for it. Be interesting to see.
He didn't look like he fought for it. It looked like that was the instructions. I'm sure Kano has like, here's the priority, here's the pecking order. He probably gave that to them before they ever took the pitch. Quezera went to the top of the pool.
I mean, yeah, maybe he's just not honest with us, but I'm pretty sure we've asked Kano before too, and he says, no, I don't have.
Oh, he has a list. Yeah, he doesn't, because otherwise, imagine those players all fighting it out if it came down to that. Like, I want to take the penalty. There's like 3 players trying to get to top goal scorer to beat own goal out, and so that could have lifted JJ above own goal, and it didn't happen. Now, on the flip side of things, Quezera getting the goal, that could be great for boosting his confidence, because I didn't realize at the time which more mind-boggling stat is like more mind-boggling here. Rhode Island FC has scored all 3 of their penalties in the regular championship this year. We're not going to talk about the PK shootouts from the Jägermeister Cup. Last time we missed, by the way, was November 2024 in Louisville in the postseason game where Noah missed one. So what's more surprising, that stat or the fact that this is the first time Josiah Quezera has scored this season?
Wow, first time. Yeah, I mean, I guess it does make sense, but it is kind of crazy too to think about how, he never scored tons of goals, but it just felt like he was a little more prolific last year. And I mean, for him to, get his first goal, the 68th minute here of the 2025 season, little wild here.
I mean, he scored another one this season, right? That's his second goal. He got one in the Jägermeister, but it's only the 5th of his RIFC career. You would think a player like Josiah Quezera would be further along in, like, when you talk about the numbers from last year and then combining them. It's just been an incredible drop off so far, and he's only the 8th player to score this season. Again, we know how low our goal production is. But like last year,
time this
like 13, 14 players had found the back of the net.
Yeah,
8 players, and none of them are higher than 3. What a time to be alive! What a time to be alive. I will mention this though, by the way, in Quezera's interesting case here, just kind of like putting dots together that don't exist normally. Last time he scored, Miami FC. So rewind the tape, goals galore. He was a part of that experience. Next time he scores, again, Miami FC. Interestingly enough, I also was like, well, what was his best game from a goal production? His best game of all time with Rhode Island FC while wearing the amber and blue? El Paso Locomotive, which is the next opponent. So you can't hate on that, right? The stars are aligning, and maybe Mr. Quezera can pull some jokes out, if you will. But listen, that was a penalty. Should we be concerned at this point that our back-to-back wins have come from goals that were assisted by the other team? We only have 1 goal in the last 900 minutes from open play. Chew on that, my friend.
I don't want to think about it.
We have only 1 goal in 900 minutes. There are players on this team that won't even reach 900 minutes in the entirety of their season. And that is how long we have been between those goals occurring from the run of play.
I mean, we've been talking about it for a while now. This team doesn't really know exactly what the formula is to score. Sometimes we, throw enough stuff at the wall, something sticks. At the end of the day, a win is a win. I think the important part here, though, is that our defense still remains strong. And our El Capitan picks up another clean sheet here. That's his 7th clean sheet in the last 9 games.
Wow.
That's crazy. So we are not fun to play against because, maybe we don't score a lot ourselves, but probably not going to let you score either. It's actually the 18th of his career now. Doing pretty solid there, especially when you consider that he's had 2 stints where unfortunately he was sidelined with injuries. When you really need to like wrap that guy in bubble wrap or something when he's not, he's not playing, keep in pristine condition. He's now actually 3rd in the USL Championship, 2 behind Vidiello. I think Vidiello's up to 11 right now. But they have a more kind of, if you compare our schedules, Vidiello's got a rougher go at it. I mean, there's maybe a possibility where maybe Koke's in contention for the Golden Glove. I mean,
So I hear you. I almost don't want to speak it into existence because we're running out of things to get excited about this season, and like I don't even want to put that in front of listeners just to take it away later. But you might not be wrong. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people think Golden Glove is like strictly about clean sheets. It's actually goals against average. So like it's really important to understand where that stat comes from. Clean sheets certainly help, right, in the bigger picture, but it's ultimately the number of goals you concede through the season. Right now, Koke Vegas is the number one goalkeeper in goals against average in the league in regular championship season performance. He's technically tied with Damian Loss and Danny Vitiello, but he has fewer goals conceded than both of them because he's had fewer games played. Now, here's where it gets weird. He's at 14. I think Loss is at 17 and Vitiello's at 19. The thing I don't know, and it factors into the determination, is the amount of games you have to play to cross that threshold, right? Because like if Vitiello plays every single game of the season and Koke's missed, I think he missed 9 in the season, like I don't know how they make that determination. I don't know if and that's why it's the averages part. But there's a minimum threshold, and then there's not. And to your point, Lou City does not have an easy schedule in front of them, but they are Lou City, and they're on a tear. Sacramento Republic also on a tear, but they don't have an easy schedule. And so we're not talking about wins, right? We're talking about keeping goals out of the back of the net. Rhode Island FC still has the third easiest schedule for the remainder of the season. There's a very good chance that we could see Koke Vegas get Golden Glove and become the keeper of the year. I don't want to say it out loud, but it's like it has to be talked about at this point. There's a real good chance. Now, if he does win it, how do we spin that into a victory for the club? Right? Like,
I mean,
an individual performance. We got to make playoffs. Then I don't even think they'll give it to us if we don't make playoffs. By the way, like I think like that also is probably an asterisk they don't talk about. Yeah, Koke was really good, but you can't give the best defense to a team that couldn't even make the playoffs. Like you can't do that, right?
Yeah, no, that feels like that would track. They would just like, tweak the formula in the background and not tell anyone. I mean, yeah, it is something to be proud of. This team continues to, be incredibly strong defensively, and they keep us in these games in the sense of where all we need is one goal. I mean, it's frustrating for some of us to watch as we saw a very explosive team last year turn into an incredibly stout, almost, I don't want to say Lily Ball-esque team, but there's some comparisons there where we're kind of trending that way unless we can figure out how to score more than one.
No, I completely agree. I really want to see how these next few games kind of unwind the story. So to do that, let's talk about the future here. Let's talk about the head-to-head coming up here with El Paso. Right now, Jason, we're on back-to-back wins. But we have the opportunity here. There's a real opportunity to win our first 3-game win streak in a row this season. Haven't done it yet. I'm going to ask you, how many times have we done it in club history, though?
I mean, I feel like we did it multiple times last year, but since you're asking me, I'm probably going to say like one time.
At least you didn't say 0 thinking it was a trick question. We did do it one time back in 2024. It's when we beat Miami, Birmingham, and then North Carolina. Right after that, Louisville kind of spark that kind of set us up for starting to get into our winning ways. We had a draw or two in that disrupted that. We had a really good win streak or unbeaten streak, but we couldn't get across.
We were the draw kings last year, so that makes sense. We probably pick up 1 or 2 wins, get a draw every 5 or 6 games, get a loss or something, and go from there.
Yeah. So it'll be this is now we're in the business part of the season, right? This is where every single point matters. So let's talk about how Kano is going to set this team up for success, and let's talk about the Eastern standings because right now we're both holding on for dear life, but also starting to put in the work to separate ourselves from those that won't be able to touch the playoff line.
Yeah, so after this last match, RIFC are still hanging on to that 8th spot. Like we mentioned earlier, 1-point lead over Indy 11, who unfortunately also won their most recent match there. This win puts us on an 8-6-11 record with 30 points now. 3 wins in the last 5. Not bad. And those losses too came against teams who are respectable. But but the pressure is on as the season is kind of winding down. So can we do it against the Train Gang? It happened last year. But they're a little bit different of a team this year in regards to their scoring ways. We've widened the gap between Birmingham and Miami. I think Miami's kind of stuck there in the basement. I don't know what
they
more
need
they
so
can do.
many teams to drop points for them. They're not mathematically eliminated.
Yeah,
but they might as well be.
Birmingham still. I'm not sure
Birmingham's going to pull it out.
I don't know what's going on with them.
They're winless in 5 now. I think they're actually winless beyond the 5.
Yeah, that's almost like a next year thing if they can sort it out, because they have talent there. I just don't know. They can't figure out what the right formula is there. But yeah, Indy keeps winning, but they do have a tough schedule coming up here. So, obviously we can only control what we can control. But Tampa Bay continues to climb. They're maybe having a bit of a resurgence here at the end of the year. And they have some, fairly easy schedule.
They have the easiest schedule according to USL pundits. Meanwhile, Indy has the hardest remaining schedule. So you could definitely see some of the polling positions behind us start to change. But where fans should be keeping their eyes is not just looking backwards and seeing who's chasing us, but also kind of keeping that left eye forward on Detroit City FC. They've now lost 2 consecutive matches. We pointed out last week that Detroit has a tough look ahead. I didn't realize how tough. I went and looked at their next 4 games. They're running the gauntlet of the top 4 in the Eastern Conference. They have Lou, Charleston, Loudoun, and North Carolina, 4 of their next 5, and then they're rewarded with, I think, a last place team as their final game. That's a tough, I know we got some points out of that, but that is, if you look back, Loudoun, we got 1 point out of both facings. North Carolina, we got one of our few wins that we've seen all year at Centerville Bank Stadium. We traded points with Charleston, and then we got nothing from Lou. There's a chance that Detroit City FC only walks away with 3 points, maybe less in the next 4 matches. They have just as much of a projection to not make the playoffs as us. They're at 60%. We're at 57% right now, according to USL. They could make them. They could have the biggest fall, and one of these other teams chasing, whether it's us, Indy, or even Tampa Bay, could come in and kind of swoop in there. It would be a shock to see if Detroit falls off, but it's right there for the taking.
I mean, it's the silly season here. So, I mean, anything can happen.
Right. Meanwhile, El Paso Locomotive, they currently sit right in the middle of the pack on 32 points with 8 wins, 8 draws, and 8 losses. Jason, I know you love that symmetry. You could almost say that record perfectly sums up they're up 1 week, they're down 1 next week, and then who knows how they fall flat in between. They have proven capable of thrashing teams this season. I feel like every time I keep an eye on El Paso, there's these high-scoring goal affairs, most of the time draws, 4-4, 3-3, 2-2, but then you gotta kind of look at that 6-0 beatdown of Las Vegas Lights. A team, if you've been paying attention, has been leading or beating us in things like clean sheets and defensive work. So, Vegas, very much kind of like us on the Western Conference side of things, to smash and grab 6 goals on a team like that, that's not for nothing. And, Sacramento was vulnerable at the time. They were not where they should have been. I think we kind of helped kickstart Sacramento's season, but they also beat them 3-0. In the recent weeks, it feels like Wilmer Cabrera Sr. has started to focus more on preventing goals from going in the back of the net, so much more than trying to just grind out these slugging matches of scoring and then getting scored on. Looking for some more clean sheets. They just got one recently in their other victory over Sacramento. So weird that this team blanked Sacramento and we got basically beat by, I know, the draw and Jägermeister, but we lost, guys. Come on, we lost. So it's a really interesting team, this El Paso side, and we're both fighting for, neither one of us have locked in a playoff position. We're still at danger of potentially getting knocked out. So this is a match. I mean, I know every match is a match, but this may be one of those ones where everyone knows what they're playing for and everyone knows what's at stake here when they start to they're running out of runway on both sides of the coin.
Yeah. When we look at our head-to-head with El Paso in the past, I've actually only played them once. That's kind of how that West Coast, East Coast thing works right now. June 26, 2024, that was a victory at home, 3-0 there. It was actually the first ever win at home at Burns Stadium following the Louisville victory that kind of sparked that summer run of form where we really turned it on there.
It was the first ever back-to-back victory too. So we talk about, the 2-game. That was our very first one where we were able to string 2 wins together, and even crazier, dude, 3rd victory in club history. Like that, you just said a second ago. June 26th was our 3rd victory of all time for Rhode Island FC back in 2024. It's so weird to be here now, and I feel like we almost had it worse in 2024 because we were over 3 by that time this season. So it's like, I don't know where
the expectations threw us out of whack.
Where do you want your misery? Do you want it at the beginning of the season? Obviously, you want it at the beginning. I don't even know. I'm answering my own questions. Like, it's just so weird to be almost in like a yin yang situation here with the team compared to last season. Wild times.
Yeah, that match saw 3 different goal scorers: Albert Dequid, Jose Quizera, and Noah Fuson. Also saw our first red card there that went in favor of us. Eric Cavillo got sent off in the 87th minute. Obviously, didn't have much of an impact on the game, but, first for a lot of things there.
Hey, you never forget your first, right?
When this watch, I went back and kind of done some watching of this team. I actually remember early on, I think I almost watched the insane 4-4 game against Phoenix, which, crazy enough, they just had another insane draw against them very recently, 3-3. Those games are just like Old West shootouts.
Those Southwest, like Copa Tejas teams, they show up for each other. They may not play well against the rest of the league, but that whole that southwestern belt, just they do not like each other.
Yeah. This team in a way kind of gives me like Indy 11 vibes, where we're going to score 45 goals, but we're going to let in 43. It's like sometimes that works in your favor, sometimes it's not. And you're in this weird conundrum where you end up with an 8-8-8 record. So I don't know. They're a very interesting team. I'm not sure how this is going to go. Should be a fun one, I'm hoping, though.
And like you said, when we were talking back to those matches, I remember the last time I was really paying attention to them, they were 3rd place in the West, right? They had they were doing well. They were knocking out teams that we thought, remember, because this team was not good last year.
They just lost 3 in a row.
And now they've just lost 3 in a row, right?
To 6.
So it's like 7. It's this topsy-turvy kind of situation. Tactically, you look at this team, and we only get the one look this year. They set up primarily in a 4-3-3. I watched ever since I started watching Rhode Island, I've moved away from positional formation selection because Kano chews me out every time I ask, like, what did you go with this formation for? He's absolutely right. It's just a starting point. It's a reference point. Defensively, they kind of flex a 3-5-2, similar to kind of what we used to do. I know we're more in that 3-4-3 game these days, but they really like using their fullbacks to push the game forward. They don't want to play through the central column when they're in possession of the ball. They rely on the midfield pivot to someone will go and offer support, but then they want to play the ball out to the wings. Primarily, that's also probably because Wilmer Cabrera's son, Andy Cabrera, don't call him Wilmer Cabrera Jr. I've learned that the hard way. He's out on the right wing. So like, it feels to me from afar, it's like that, that children's basketball team where you're the basketball coach and you only signed up to be the coach because your son is the star player and you want to make sure he is getting a support around it. It kind of feels like that at times, man. I'm not gonna lie. But they do rely on this push. But here's the thing. El Paso has to be one of the slowest teams, and that's hard for us to say as Rhode Island FC fans. They're slower than us. I watched these games, and up until the moment of the build-up being into the true final third, they take their time with the ball. There's a deliberate build-up where they want the ball, they want possession. So this may work out great because we've demonstrated Charleston loved possession, beat them. Miami loved possession, beat them. El Paso seems to be kind of the same vernacular now. They want to try to draw opponents out, but like we watched in this Miami game, Jason, we didn't take the bait. You come to us, and then when we get to the actual true defending time, we're going to block you out and then move on and take the ball and catch you where you've overcommitted to try to get that overlap or that overload. It's really interesting. The buildup reminds me, we talked a little bit last year about Loudon, how they would want to build into the play, like lots of passing sequences. Didn't matter the direction the ball was going, but it would start slow and then suddenly, boom, they'd like just unlock the jets and then they'd go forward. That's what El Paso want. They almost like want to lure you into this is the tempo we're going to play. And then once you think you've figured it out, they're gonna do something sneaky. They're gonna try to do something, but it all comes up with this methodical buildup. They're not a team. They can transition. Every team can transition, but like they don't want to do that. They'd rather try to find ways to break you down through their style of play. Defensively, they rely on a compactness. They're not like Miami. It's going to be the complete opposite, right? They want to maintain a shape in front of you. They want the ball in front of you. They kind of set up in a 2-3-2-3 if they have the time to do that setup. And it's going to be something where they want to trap the opponents. They would love to win the ball a little bit higher, but they don't have that same press system. It's more zonal. Like they want to push you out wide because that's where their wingbacks were engaged. They're not afraid to step into it. And it's all about that defensive pivot that they have, because right now, and I think that's more of Wilmer Cabrera's focus, he wants to start having a cleaner game. He wants to start having less balls go into the net. But the reality here, and I'm going to let you get into the tactics a little bit more in length, but the reality, in my opinion, is too much of this team's attack is run through Andy Cabrera. When he's not on the pitch, we'll go over the stats here in a second. In fact, I'm just going to bring up the stats now because they're too good not to bring up. When Andy Cabrera is not on the pitch, things fall apart for this team. They have scored 23 goals, and they have, I apologize. They have earned 23 points when Cabrera plays 75% of the match or more. When he's not playing 75% of the match or he's been out for injury, they've got just 12 points. It's such a lights out comparison. When he's on the pitch, the team is better for it, and so much of the attack is going through him. So not only when is he on the pitch, if he's also not having a great game, the team suffers for that as well. I heard an interesting thing about Wilmer Cabrera saying this team is very light in terms of roster depth. They might be one of the lightest teams in the entirety of the championship. I mean, you look at Sporting Lexington, they've bought so many players this year, they're loaning them back out because they can't have the roster at the size that it is. But that speaks volumes that if the entire attack is going through Cabrera and he's not consistent on the day, a lot of the system then falls apart. So when the system's clicking, it's clicking. But when it's not, that's a big warning sign to me about how, again, Rhode Island FC is so good defensively. When there's just one player you kind of have to phase out of the game, they do a really good job of that.
Yeah. And to kind of like highlight, review some of this, what we're talking about in regards to like possession, they have very high average possession stats. On top of that, very high passing stats. Their long ball accuracy is very high, and they have high shots on target. This team likes to possess the ball, and they like to attack. They want to be compact in terms of central to vents and reliable kind of pivots in regards to their midfielders. But at the same time, if you go back and watch their last 3 games, they've overcommitted in regards to their attack. And if you play your cards right, you can cut through them like a hot knife through butter. Like they were getting destroyed at the back. They were taking advantage of left and right. So what they want to do is not always translating, especially in the last 3 results. I don't know if this is just a slump in form for them, but they're at least trying to maintain like a level of compactness.
Would you say then they're a wide team or a central team?
I mean, they were getting cut through, like, you know.
I saw the Charleston game where Kofi took the ball up. It collided with his own player. There was 3 injuries on the pitch at the same time. And then MD Myers just like dribbled through traffic cones. And then like the whole rest of the game just broke down for 5 seconds. And he got the easiest goal of his career, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, part of it maybe comes down to just like dumb mistakes, right? You try and to play compact and play that high, you need to be on it 100% of the time, right? Because you give up one like mistake and then they're behind you and it's 1v1 versus the goalkeeper. So in that regards, it's tough to say, but a lot of it just came from like countering them. Like if you can go at them at pace and you can get a ball in behind them and you have runners heading at that ball, you're going to put them in bad position because then they're scrambling to get back into position because they want to like, try and remain like compact. But if you're forcing them to run at their own goal, it's going to cause them problems. Very
reminiscent of Miami, but a little bit more composure probably in that same regard. Who are the ref assignments? Is there anyone that we need to look out for since we've been talking so well and so lovely? I think Jason earlier said that the refs are the greatest people on the planet.
The best. for this game. We have a head ref of Christian Campo Hernandez. The assistant ref is Rhett Hamill and Juan Pablo Casas, with the fourth official being Rafael Santos.
None of those names stick out to me, so maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing. I will say that seems like there's a lot of Hispanic names in there, and El Paso is known as a Hispanic stronghold. It's one of the best cities, actually, in that lower southwestern belt. I haven't been yet, but everyone raves that they've got some of the best culture, some of the best food. We got to make a visit out there. So if there's any biases, we'll just chalk it up to that there was a southwestern flavor to our refs on the night. Let's get into this injury report. This is a bit of an interesting piece here. We only can go off of what we know from the last week's game with 2 away games. They didn't do a media day, so I wasn't able to get any of that information. So right now, Rio Hope Gun, I have him as questionable because I've seen him out and about around on game days, and he doesn't seem to be under any kind of, like medical brace or he's not limping. So I don't know what is.
Did you go over to him and say blink twice if you're under duress?
I should have. The big ones last week, and it was a lot of confusion, especially in the Discord. Maxi Rodriguez and Amos Shapiro-Thompson both out. We were wondering why they hadn't traveled. We were wondering why Matthew and Dongo made the trip down. Really interesting opportunity here. One, I feel like, especially with the Joe Brito example, Maxi and Amos kind of occupy, or at least can occupy, that front right wing when we talk about the players that have kind of sat in that position the most this year. Maybe Noah has dropped in there a little bit too, as well as Clay has moved into it. But really interesting to see, is Joe, again, is the Joe show, does it continue here, or are there other options? And the worst part is, we still don't know what these injuries are. We know that they happen between, again, is Centerville Bank cursed? I don't know. We're going to find out at the end of the season. We're going to find out. But on El Paso's side, there's 2 injuries. One we know confirmed, Brian Romero out. Most likely this is due to an injury. He's most likely out for the remainder of the season, so we probably will not see him. Arturo Ortiz is going to be the question mark here for El Paso. During that collision with Kofi Chumesi, when he went down against, I think it was Cavillo, Ortiz was actually off to the side, and it looked like he had strained a hamstring because he broke down on the play that allowed the rest of Charleston's numbers to get forward. He was immediately subbed off, limping off the pitch. In the press conference I was able to get from friends over at El Paso, it starts off immediately talking about a muscle strain. It could either be Ortiz, which makes the most sense, but it also could be Kofi Chumesi. So we'll talk a little bit about the lineup construction for El Paso in a second, but my guess is Ortiz is the one that will be out here for this El Paso side. Jason, let's talk about Rhode Island FC formations guaranteed to be wrong, and let's see how bad we are at this guesswork here.
But bearing any, crazy unforeseen circumstances, Koke Vegas is going to be in net. That back 3, we're thinking Ugo Bacharach, Karifa Yao, and Ame Mabika will return. He was unavailable this last game due to red card suspension, but that was just for 1 game. Why not try it? Why don't we push Frank Nodarce up to right wing back so we can get Clay Holstad next to his boy Zach Hervo there in the midfield with Joe Quizera out on the left. Use that speed maybe to kind of get in behind the El Paso defense. With a front 3 here of Joe Brito, JJ Williams, and Noah Fuson. As you said, we're not sure what those injuries are, so we're just going to assume until we know any different that they may not be available for this game either.
Yeah, and the reason we have Nodarce up to the right wing back is you're missing a lot of players that can play on the right side now in the midfield. I know we're all midfielders, but it's weird. Again, 1 week we're healthy, 1 week we're not. You have literally right now, in this moment in time, minus Rio Hope Gund, you have every single defender in your team healthy. And we have 6 center backs now. So you almost have to find creative ways to have them find the space. I don't want to jinx the fact that they're all healthy because that just only is a great problem to have. But we also then have to think Diop is a part of that equation. Now he's starting to get minutes. We know how much Kano sees him as this left-sided unicorn coming down, whether it's this stretch or at least into 2026. Jason, we've talked about the ability to interchange these players. But if you are going up against a team that favors possession, wouldn't you want to have more defensive-sided players on that? Especially with what we have in reserve. The argument you could make is Stoneman. I know he's a Kano favorite. You could interchange him with the back line anywhere or bring Hugo into it and then keep Clay out wide. You could bring Mark in. But like from that middle and back side of things, who are you picking?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of already talked about, you know, Mark having a bit of an invisible match this last one. I mean, you know, Clay, would love to see him in the midfield. He did, unfortunately, he did really
Had a really
well
good game.
against Miami on that right hand side. I mean, obviously, you want him in there wherever you can, but I think he shines best in the midfield. We haven't had it. I mean, have we had any Clay bangers this year?
I think we had one, but I don't know if it was in the Jägermeister Cup, Open Cup, or if it was in the championship.
Feels like it was in a Cuppity Cup, not like an actual regular match.
Right.
And so, I mean, you can't hit those while you're out on the right wing. Right? You go.
Listen, the point of it is there's so much you could mix and match here from the back four back or from the midfield four back, and it really I don't think changes a lot. Like it's really almost does Kano see a better 1v1 matchup to take advantage of than anything else. I think the microscope here is back to the front. Does Joe Brito get a third start, or do we make the argument that with AST and Maxi out, we need to kind of go for the throat faster and sooner in this team? And do we bring in like has Busy done enough to warrant replacing Joe Brito in this match? We haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen two speedy players in Fuson and Busy paired next to a player like JJ, right? We haven't seen that yet. They always kind of swap out for each other. You could argue Chico could make his way back into the starting 11. I think that changes the entire dynamic of how those two play at the front together as a pairing. But like, if we're going to change anything, would it be Brito out at this point, and maybe the rest of the roster stays the exact way it was from the last match?
It's hard to say. You know, in that spot where Brito is playing, it's been AST and Maxi a lot. And if I remember correctly, is Busy usually playing on the kind of left side of that front three,
he
right?
Has played on the left, but in the most recent game, he's an attacking midfielder / winger, right? He seems versatile enough that he can kind of be dangerous into any space.
Yeah, and maybe it's part of the balance that coaches wants to kind of make of that front three, because think about AST and Maxi. Neither of them are like legit wingers. They're almost like Cam's second strikers, somewhat forwards, which Joe Brito also kind of falls into. So maybe that's why he's setting the team up this way. Wants a front three of like a winger, a striker, and a second forward, if that kind of makes any sense, and let them kind of, you know, play off of each other to a certain extent. You know, I would like to see some more Busy, though. I feel like we haven't gotten enough opportunity. It feels like he has a speed to him I don't think anyone else on this team has. And if we could just get the ball in behind and let him run at it, like see what he can do.
I completely agree. I think that it's like difficult because at one part you want to see the tinkering, but at the other part, Kano has to really trust at this point. Like if it's working, don't go fix what isn't broken, you know?
Yeah. At a certain point, it feels like we should lock something down, but hey, let's just.
So let's talk about how El Paso Locomotive may line up here with Wilmer Cabrera. So first off, you have Jamali Waite. He's been amazing for Jamaica this year. He was signed up for the Gold Cup and got some action there. So he will be most likely in the sticks for El Paso here. The back four of this construction, again, they play a 4-3-3 predominantly. Memo Diaz, and for Jason and I, we know Memo Diaz. He's a converted right back now, I guess. Last time I saw him, he was playing in a right winger, right midfielder. So he's a MLS product that's now converted into that right back side.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised to see him in this lineup. I was like, oh yeah, that's where he's at.
And then partnered right next to him was a former teammate of his because of Ortiz's most likely injury in Tony Alfaro. So he'll be on that right center back side. And then you know him and you love him. RIFC alumni Kofi Chumesi will be playing as a left center back. He's now been converted from a midfielder. It looks like El Paso was paying attention to the Kano experiment where he played as a right center back for us last season. So he's now been playing there with some consistent minutes, I will add. And then you've got Ricky Ruiz on that left back side. In the midfield three, you've got Frank DeRoma, Eric Cavillo, and Gabriel Torres. They're going to be kind of locking down that midfield, rotating through the single pivot, trying to stifle the attack. But they they play defensively until suddenly they don't. And I know that's such a weird thing to say, but some midfielders have a knack for like automatically going forward. They seem to need to be drawn into the attack. Like it really matters where the wingers go for them to create passing sequences. And that's going to come from that front three. Andy Cabrera out on that right wing with Beto Avila and Armando Moreno up on the left side. Back to the back line, you could see Wahab Akwe on that back line instead of Alfaro. He was on red card suspension the week before, similar to Mabika, but I think Alfaro might be the better product just because of what he offers. But Wahab is a Cabrera guy from Orlando City and Rio Grande. It took me a second.
The Toros.
So
RIP.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see what he has to do there. But listen, we already talked about Cabrera and his impact on the game. What I want to get into here is let's get an alumni update for our boy Kofi Chimesi. You know, that injury. Did you see the injury that he went through? I thought he was dead. I was like, perfect timing. He can play all his friends, and he just died on the pitch. It was.
I did see that. That's when they got counterattacked and kind of scored on there, and
they crashed into each other, and like
just like Looney Tunes.
The ref was like, "I don't have to blow a whistle for like you hurt yourselves. Like that's not a foul." But he really has become an integral part of El Paso's backline, despite the results over these last few matches. He's made a total of 17 appearances and started now in these last 9 games for the Locos. In that stretch, he's helped the club get to 3 shutouts, something that they have not been able to do very much so far this season. He got his first assist of his professional career in the 3-3 draw that you were talking about against Phoenix back in August, and he leads the team defensively with 8 blocks. He ranks 3rd with 51 clearances and 5th on the team in aerial duels. His aerial duel percentage is not as high. He's not as tall of a player. I know there's so many tall guys in RIFC, but he was never really one of those tall guys. So he's doing the work. It's good to see him playing. One of the worst things you can ever see is like a player transitions off your team. You want them to do well, not against us, right? So we, of course, a Chumesi world banger is coming in now. Like he's going to bike us or something. But it's good to see that he's thriving in a different team, in a different setup, playing a largely different role. So love to see that. Do you think he does any kind of like is he a player we have to watch out for, or does Kano have the keys on how to unlock Kofi?
I think due to part of the nature of where he plays, I the best he's going to do is like deny us a goal or something like that we will so desperately need.
Agreed. So I want to talk about these positions of these two teams. We mentioned it earlier. One of them is in 6th. One of them is in 8th. A win on Friday night tips the scales in their direction in a massive way for either one of these teams.
El Paso was last night was temporarily in 7th place, while New Mexico was losing to Colorado Springs until they came back. So I mean, they could have gone from 3rd to 7th within 3 games, which is wild. I mean, the West is a madhouse over there.
And a defeat, like you said, could drop them points at this point. There's so many teams right behind, right on the heels of both of these teams in their respective conferences. When I ask this question, it's difficult to say, but we've seen at times when there is something on the line earlier in the season, not like elimination necessarily. We haven't always seen Rhode Island FC play brave. We've talked about that a couple times now over the last month. And I know Kano would never say we're setting up to play for a draw, but 1 point on the road getting out of El Paso is more favorable than no points. And I wonder at times when a team is this good defensively, do you kind of just batten down the hatches and weather the storm, or do you go for the throat punch and do you try to like get up? Do you try to score? Do you try to hold on to it? Obviously, this team's going to do everything they can to find a way to win, but there's a difference, right? There's like that. Is the desperateness there? Do they know like is this a must-win game? Right? I can't even say it right because it hurts to put that into sequence. Does this become a must-win game? I don't know that it does, but there are massive consequences if either one of these teams fails to lose. Do we think that they'll play a little bit safer then?
I don't think it's a must-win game yet, but with Indy 11 at our heels, and like sure they're playing some of the best teams in the league coming up here, but also they score for fun too. So you could see them getting some like kind of random results there. In regards to El Paso, I mean, the West is what it is. It's all over the place, But for RIFC, I think that you you need points from almost every single game going to the end of the season. You have to control what you can control. At this point, we've dropped enough points. We've floundered. I think that the way our defense is, I think they're going to give us a chance to get a result here. It's up to the attack to finally click.
Whereas on El Paso side, the attack may find a way to score, but it's up to the defense to help them carry. It's a very
stay in the game.
Very interesting juxtaposition. I guess then, I'll ask this, looking at El Paso, the disadvantage El Paso has compared to us is they have 3 games in 7 days coming up this week. Big, tall order. First, it's Rhode Island FC. Then I think it's Oakland, and then I think it's Orange County. Oakland, people thought Phil Haber was going to take them back to the promised land. Project's not really looking like it's going to happen much in this year. Orange County, a bit of a weird situation under Danny Stone. Hasn't also quite figured either team, maybe, but like chances are those are probably winnable games. Rhode Island FC is most likely the most difficult game for El Paso this week. I mentioned earlier, Wilmer Cabrera out of his own mouth said that it was probably one of the lightest roster depths in the entire league. I think Hartford's up there with them in terms of it. Like, they can't afford an injury. They have to be careful about the minutes they manage. They just don't have the player depth. Andy Cabrera just came back from an injury on August 9th. He's not playing a full 90 yet. He normally does. He hasn't gotten there yet. He probably needs 1 or 2 more games to get into the mix and be at like full strength. Obviously, with 3 games, you play him on the first, potentially rest him on the second, and then play him again on the third. Do you do that, Jason, or do you go for the games you can win? And could we see a Cabrera coming in as a secondary sub? I think Christian Ortiz has been holding down, or Christian Soto, I think is his name. He's been holding down the right wing in Cabrera's absence. How would you manage Andy Cabrera in those circumstances?
That's a tough circumstance there. You almost wonder if could you get 45 minutes from him each game?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, he's your son at that point. You just yell him like, I need you to do better or you're grounded. Like, I don't know how that works at the professional level, but definitely going to be on Cabrera's mind as he has to manage the minutes of these players across 3 critical games. And whereas Rhode Island FC, we're past most of that. Thank goodness we lost the Jägermeister Cup, right? Blessing in disguise, because we won't have to stack another midweek game. Just these weird Friday night matches at 9:00. Do you think that that's going to be on El Paso's mind as they get through this first match?
No, I think that they'll, similar to Kano's favorite line, just take it 1 game at a time.
I shouldn't even ask you that question anymore. I set you up for glory, and then you do that every single time. James writes in, he just got here. What did he miss? You just missed the entire show, James. It's fine. We started 8:00 for you. It's okay. No big deal. All right, Jason, how does Rhode Island FC win this match? What do they got to do to get all 3 points on the road?
Interestingly, El Paso are worst in the league for clearances. So it's this conundrum where, you don't want to press them too much because they can hurt you at the back. But at the same time, you can get them to give a turn away in the back line. You're now right there at goal to kind of go for an opportunity.
But we don't look like we press possession teams.
Yeah. So I would say, that being said, I think realistically what we did against Miami is probably the blueprint here. Sit back, kind of flex the team back and forth, let them get to the halfway line before we engage them. From there, try and win that ball, and then immediately go on a counter sort of transition, if you will. We saw a lot of good 1-2 passing combinations, like pass and run, really force their back line to defend there. They've given up tons of goals. They have shown to be leaky at the back if you can kind of make them uncomfortable. So let's see that happen. I think that this is one of those possibilities where, sure, this team's not great at scoring, but we're playing against a team that is not great at defending, despite them trying to control the game.
I've got the exact same thing for the utmost. It's sit back. We saw, like you said, when El Paso overextends their attack trying to find the goal, they can be countered very hard. We talked also how they engage the wingbacks, they engage their fullbacks. Sit back, drop into a defensive shape. As soon as they overcommit, take the ball, whether it's in a midfield transition, a final third transition of your own, and then just explosively go forward. fire down a wing if you need to, because that's maybe where the numbers have been committed in their attack, and then move forward in a quick transition and take a look at goal. After that, like you said, with them having to run with the ball behind them, they may get sloppy on trying to do a clearance or trying to reset, and then that's where you can pounce for a second ball opportunity. I think, when you look at Cabrera's, we didn't really mention this, but Cabrera is got the eye for goal, but it's that when the ball is deflected, the ball's punched out. There's in that traffic, there's not a lot of secondary strikes. There's not a lot of secondary finishing. We suffer from the same problem. It would be great to see on those spill outs, those deflections, another runner coming in and just cleaning up. I think we can really do some damage to El Paso in the run of play for the first time in a long time. But then also, that being said, El Paso plays it loose and fast too. They've seen their fair share of discipline this year. Wouldn't be surprised if we get yet another PK opportunity or create some luck by El Paso being sloppy or making their own mistakes. Either way, RFC's got to step up in this game. They need all 3 points in a big way. And it would be nice to see them not only get an open play goal, but then also just string a couple of goals into. I don't think we've had more than a 1-0 performance in our favor in 2.5 months now. I can't even remember, outside of Open Cup again. I think the last one may have been North Carolina or Tampa Bay. It's tough. And the fact that I have to think that hard about it, it's not even worth confirming. It's just that's
I think the only one
vibe.
Was the Jaeger 2-2.
Right, but I don't.
But that's Jaeger, it doesn't count. Yeah.
So, all right. Scoring prediction wise, in terms of what the fans want and what the fans say, is it looks like it's going in the favor of Rhode Island FC. Again, we've got the best fans in the business. 50% of fans do believe that Rhode Island FC will win this game outright. 39% believe El Paso Locomotive will get the job done in 90 plus stoppage, and then 11% of you sickos think that this game will be a draw. Hopefully not a 0-0 draw on whoever's thinking about that. I just don't see this being a clean sheet. I just don't see it being a clean sheet at all. But if it is, it's only because we score first and then are able to hold on to that lightning for another game here to come. Jason, do you have a prediction, or do we just want to say kill predictions for the rest of the year? You got to win every game, so it's almost not fair to say anything but a win, right?
Yeah, I mean, heck, 3-0.
Oh,
let's get Koke closer to that.
Wasn't it 3-0 the last time around?
Yeah,
let's do it. Why not?
Let's wind it back.
Hey, I'll relive some 2024 Burn Stadium magic. Absolutely. Absolutely. As a reminder, for those of you that will be watching the game somewhere, you can't watch it at Centerville Bank, and unless you're going to El Paso. I mean, if you're the pool party and you're traveling, well done. But remember, this game is on Friday night, first and foremost. So it's our next Friday game that we have. We'll have 3 Friday games in the last, I think, 5 matches of the season. That's never fun, but it is Friday, and because it's a Western Conference team, everyone, this will be at 9:00 Eastern Standard Time. I almost said Eastern Pacific, as if that's a real time. Eastern Standard Time. So it'll be at 9:00. The game is available on NESN, ESPN Plus, and 790 The Score. It's one of your 3 final chances to watch an away game, and if you want to go out to a place like maybe the Guild and hang out with the wonderful supporters group that is Defiant 1636. Had a couple of people reach out this week. In fact, someone messaged me for a while on the Discord. I don't know who they are. They never told me who they were. They just asked a bunch of questions about the team. Maybe they asked about my social security number. I don't really remember. It was just a blur. But I said, hey, come out to a watch party. And they said, yeah, we have to get out and do that. So you have 3 chances left. And it's always a good time at the Guild and, hanging out with the supporters group. So take that opportunity, and we will see everyone tomorrow night at 9:00 at night for the late night match. Come in your jammies. Let's have a pajama party. Why not? Jason, you want to roll up in your pajamas?
9:00. The night's still young.
I know, but maybe we just have a pajama party anyways. Pajamas over regular clothes. I don't know. What is the final word, and why is it not a pajama party?
Let's go out there and derail that train.
Train gang.
All right, y'all. Wait,
hold on. No. Did you know that the Thomas the Tank Engine theme park in Ednaville out near Carver is gone? There was a train theme park right next to the Renaissance Festival. Now the Renaissance Festival is in the train park. Thomas the Tank Engine died so that you could drink mead and a giant turkey leg. Fun fact, everyone.
We're gonna have to go drink mead in his honor then at some point.
Choo choo,
All right. Well, before this pod gets derailed, let's get out of here. Make sure y'all to check out our friends over at the Blazing Musket for all of your New England soccer coverage. That's including RFC, at theblazingmusket.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Threads, TikTok, and Blue Sky at RIFC Podcast. We have an Instagram. It's at Raising Anchor. And we got a website as well, raisinganchorpodcast.com. Anchor's up. See y'all tonight or tomorrow whenever you listen to this.
Anchor's up.